Welcome back. It's very good of you to take the time to join me today. And particularly as I am very, very happy to be able to announce, in paraphrasing Samuel Clemens, that the reports of the death of my iMac G5 have been greatly exaggerated. And in fact, it's in front of me right now, and I'm using the iSight camera to record this. Yay! Now, what happened? As I had mentioned in the previous video, if you haven't seen it, I was watching a Draga 1 video while preparing my dinner when it just cut out. It turned off. It was as though there was a power failure, but there's no power failure. The lights were still on. So I tried turning it on again. It chimed, but didn't start. A third try, nothing. Well, my obvious impression was, okay, my God, the caps have gone. It's such a problem with these machines. So I unplugged it and I left it for a couple of days. Well, just yesterday, I came down and thought, well, what the heck? It's not going to hurt anything. I tried plugging it in. And yeah, when I put the plug in, it was kind of loose. It just didn't seem right. So I pushed the plug in, hit the power button, and it booted right up. Of course, I let go of the plug, and it was off again. Well, I simply tried another power cord, plugged it in. It's been running like a charm ever since. And that's good news because OWC had just shipped my stuff here. So I have a 2 gigabyte RAM kit all ready to put in the machine to upgrade it from the one that's currently in there. And an SSD. And just, I'm going to say this again because it's important. I know I've said it before, but anyone watching this video who is considering doing something like this for himself, I said this when I was upgrading the iMac G5 with an SSD. But there are people who may want to upgrade iMac G5s who wouldn't bother to look at a iMac video. Anyhow, what makes this different, you'll notice the 3G there. 3G is OWC's SATA 2 SSD. If you just go onto Amazon and buy an SSD, you are almost certain. And once that's done, I'm going to be performing these upgrades. I hope you can stick around for the ride and see the results. Stay tuned. Alright, I've assembled everything we need here. This is the drive caddy and the drive. Very simply, the drive just slides in. This then is going to extend the SATA connector. And if we look down here, we're going to see the screw holes that will secure the SSD into place. Now, OWC includes 8 screws. These 4 smaller ones are in fact the screws that will secure the drive into place in the enclosure here. These 4 larger screws would be mounting screws, which of course probably not be necessary, seeing as how the screws are in place in the drive that exists. But good that they're there. You know, if we need them, we need them. Okay, now these machines are compared to a lot of things I've done, very easy to work with. There are 3 screws here. There's one under here that you're not really going to be able to see. And then one over on the other side here. Now they are captive screws. All you really have to do with them is loosen them until they stop turning. Then they're going to stay in place. And then we just lift up and the back cover pulls right off. There's nothing attached to it, no cables. All right, now we see, of course, the RAM slots right here. Very easy to replace RAM. You won't really even need to see that. Our G5 processor, naturally. Taking a quick look at the caps. And honestly, they look okay. I'm not seeing anything that's a problem. I'm going to go over them a lot more carefully. I'll do that off camera. Now, if we come around, we can see now the primary place we're going to have to work. There's a fan shroud, fan cover here. Here, the 2 screws that need to be removed, and that should simply come off. That is going to give us complete access to this hard drive. There's a temperature sensor that will need to be disconnected. There are screws that need to be unscrewed, and it should all just come off. Now, as far as unscrewing screws, I think I can do that off camera. What I'll do is get the fan cover off. Again, you don't need to watch me unscrew screws. And then we'll take a look at what we have behind there. All right. Things just don't always seem to go exactly the way iFixit seems to think they should. Not to knock iFixit guides, they're very, very good. According to the iFixit guide, I was supposed to remove the heat sensor and then unscrew the bracket, take out the SATA cables, power and data. Now, I could not, for the life of me, get that thing to come off, and I was most concerned about the potential of breaking it, because that would not be a good thing. So, what I've improvised here is to remove the SATA cables and take the bracket off, leaving the hard drive sensor on. Now, there's enough slack in the cable here that this should be fine. I then need to unscrew screws here and then back over here to get the bracket off the original hard drive so that I can put it on my SSD without ever disconnecting the thermal sensor. Now, again, unscrewing screws is not something you really need to watch anyone do. I'll give you a tip. I use a screwdriver. Now, but not here. Yeah, everything up to now has been Phillips screws. In fact, the large Phillips screw in the Neurotech toolkit. These are Torxes. So anyway, fortunate enough, I have Torx drivers, so we will get that off, and you'll rejoin again when this has come off. Please stay tuned. So some of the little tips. I don't think it is necessary or even desirable to remove that sensor, as iFixit says, It might have been a little easier dealing with the screws on the bracket had it come out, but I just couldn't see myself taking a pair of pliers to the thing, trying to pull it off and pull that whole little board off. Just not worth it. If it comes off, it is a little easier to get this one of the 3 Phillips screws that holds the bracket in place screwed back in, but it's not really that difficult. You've got to get the drive bracket from OWC here in what looks apparently to be upside down. Otherwise, the SATA connector is, of course, over here and reversed. The order in which you do this, it doesn't matter so much for plugging them in, but when you're disconnecting them, it's a lot easier to disconnect the power cable first because you can get at both ends, and it comes out pretty easily. Then it's very easy to get the data cable out. Getting those screws back in. If you do put it in upside down, it seems a little easier to screw the screws back in so the bracket is attached to this little caddy here. But I saw immediately when I tried to put it back down, okay, this is not going to work. All right, the next step is going to be to do the memory, I think. And I'm going to do that right now because otherwise I may forget and I will be most unhappy at having to take the thing apart again, although it's really not that bad. I mean, doing this to get at the RAM is absolutely simple. So he said when he can't get the RAM to go back in, the new RAM that is. Okay, that's fine. Okay, seat. Okay, we got that. And then the second one. And you seat 2. That one was easier to get at. Okay. All right. Yeah, I've done that before where, particularly with Mac Minis, I go through the whole thing of taking the thing apart, obviously much more difficult than this, get it all put back together, put the cover back on, try to boot it up, and I forgot to put the RAM in. Okay, so I'm going to put the fan shroud back on, and then it's just a matter of putting the cover back on, and then we'll start it up and see what we have going. So stay tuned. One other quick point to make. When you're screwing these back in, you've got a screw over here nearest the fan and one that's going into the hard drive if you had a hard drive, or in the enclosure if you're using that. Use this screw to go in here. It's got a rounded top to it, not this screw. That one goes over here. Okay. All right. Everything's put together. The screws are in there. Hopefully I didn't forget to screw anything in. Now, very simply, put the back cover on. Thusly, I'll screw in those screws. We're going to try to start it up and see if everything worked. So, once again, stay tuned. All right, we are reassembled. I'm going to try booting the machine onto an external FireWire drive, which has got working installations of OS 9, which won't show up here, Tiger, and Okay, here we go. There's the Tiger and there's Leopard. Let's boot it into Leopard. These are on the FireWire drive because, of course, the new drive put in there has nothing on it. It's going to need to be formatted even. I usually do that ahead of time, but I was so excited the machine was working again. I really wanted to get back to this. And we have to wait for our little wristwatch, OS 9 style, to... there we go. Now we can select Leopard, and let's boot her up. Yeah, the fan running like that is pretty normal when it's booting up. Once it gets booted up, it should ramp down again, I sincerely hope. Yep, there's ramping down. That's good. I didn't want to think that I'd screwed up the fan sensor. Although I think, if anything, without the sensor connected, the fans won't spin up when they need to. And yes, it needs to be initialized, which I'm certainly going to do. But just to verify some things here, get out of the way. Okay. Yes, we still have, of course, our 2 GHz PowerPC G5. There are 2 gigabytes of RAM in there. Saints be praised. Oops. And we've got to click more info and see what Serial ATA tells us. Yep, it's 500 gigabytes, but it will always read less due to reasons. But yeah, it's detected. So all we need to do now is going to be to format the disk and install some operating systems. Now, what I usually tend to do with a PowerPC machine is to put on Leopard and Tiger. And the reason I do that is simply because I want Tiger on there to be able to go into Classic and OS 9, since this machine is not going to boot into Classic. Boot into OS 9 directly. But in this case, I think what I'm going to do is make, say a 25 gig partition and put Panther on it. And my reasoning for doing that is largely sentimental. That iMac G5 that my blessed mother gave me these many years ago, back when these were a thing, came with Panther pre-installed. So while Panther is not nearly as functional an operating system as Tiger is in the modern day, in terms of just running Classic, it'll be absolutely fine. And it'll be nice to boot it up so I can see it in the way that it is. Now, is Airport not configured? Okay, well, we could deal with that. It does have the airport card, of course. All right, this appears to be successful. So I'm gonna partition and format the drive, and then install some operating systems. But I think in terms of the upgrade portion of this, we can call an end to this video now. So please be good to other people. Maybe now more than ever, we all need people to be good to us. Be good to yourselves, because that's where it all starts from. And take very, very good and careful care. And I'm going to be back with more stuff much sooner rather than later. Bye for now.